What are we jamming on now, Jay? What are you jamming on now?
Oh, man. So, unfortunately, I've been sick lately. Haven't been able to play a lot. So I've been sprinkling in a little bit of zombies here and there. But a lot of your TMNT posts that I've been seeing reminded me, like, wait a minute, there's a DLC, I think, to Shredder's Revenge. So pulled it out, and I was absolutely right. There's 2 new characters, Usagi, who I thought I had to explain to you who this person was, but so much respect for that.
Yeah, Usagi was in the... I mean, I want to say that was like... He wasn't in the first line, but I want to say he was in the second line of action figures and nice. In the early cartoon seasons, so...
Yeah, what about... there was also a character called Karai. Do you know who that is? It's like a woman, but I don't know her story, her background.
So. Okay. That doesn't sound familiar. No, they didn't really do female action figures in the 80s, so... April O'Neil, the one damsel in distress, that was it. Yeah, that's pretty much it as far as TMNT.
That's true. That's fair.
Female figures goes.
Yeah. Either way, this is fun stuff. Not any new content, so that was a little disappointing. But otherwise, it was fun being able to add those characters as well as playing Casey Jones, Splinter.
That's it. They called DLC just some characters. Like,
yeah, it's characters. There's some other stuff as well, but either way, it's not like new stages, which is what I was hoping for.
Yeah, that's what I'd be hoping for if I were to buy DLC. Also,
but at the same time, it was like a couple dollars. Like it really was like less than coffee. So I was fine with that because this is a game we were going to play over and over anyway because it's so fun. Why not? But in playing that, it reminded me like, oh yeah, I have the Cowabunga collection. Let me play the other ones. But then I realized as I was going through this episode, like, I'm going to hold off in case one of these other ones get voted in. But my turtle nostalgia was peaked a little more.
Plus, yeah.
To say the least.
Okay. Yeah, TMNT 2, the arcade game will do that for sure.
Yeah, it's a classic. Like, what are we talking about? Like, it's the game. Anyway, we'll get into a lot more of that later. But, I've been playing... a little more Mortal Kombat 1. I've beat the game, the main campaign. Now I've just kind of been working through the towers, trying out new fatalities. Another mode that they have, which is similar to the Crypts, where you're kind of going through a castle, having different encounters. It's a whole different mode. I'm not sure I like it, but it's, I'm just checking it out. But I also got a wild hair and decided to download Forza Motorsport, which I'd never played before. I'm all about Forza Horizon, open world RPG racing. It's great, amazing game. But I was watching Gran Turismo, like the movie, recently, and that Formula One style Indy 500, whatever you want to call it, lap racing. I don't know. I wanted to try that, and obviously being an Xbox guy, I realized Motorsport would be the play. So, man, that game is freaking great. I never even heard of these. I never really played them. They've never been my type of game, but just another amazing Forza racing game. Not much else to say there. Like if you're a big racing guy, obviously you could gush about it, but I'm not really into the, tuning your car and like all that, all the details of it that I'm sure would make everybody else go, woo!
That part would probably I would probably actually enjoy that part of it though. Like I'm sure the intricacies with like building your car are pretty thorough, would be my guess in a game like that. So I actually probably would kind of enjoy that. The racing part I would probably struggle with a little bit. I did this. I did another one of those study. Ford wanted me to do a study, so I went and did this. Really? All right. So I don't think they told me what brand it was, but it was clearly Ford once I got there. Anyways, I was doing that, and they had a part. One of the things they had was like it's kind of like a prototype interface, like different dashboard things and like shit to do on your screen. And they had an Xbox controller and you could play. They had a racing game to play on the screen. Awesome. And I actually played for a few minutes this fucking racing game on a car console, basically. What? So for the first time, I might have been. It could have been. I think it was actually what's the Xbox
Forza?
Yeah, I think it was Forza. So my whole point being, I actually did dabble in it ever so briefly now.
Nice.
And it was cool. It looked cool, but I mean, I sitting and playing it for an extensive period of time. Like, it seems crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be in the car trying to play that game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they are sure to point out that you're not supposed to do that while driving, of course. Yeah. Sure.
I mean, I would miss. I mean, having that option as a kid on the amount of long distance road trips.
Can you imagine? Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god.
That would just be next level. I mean, it would have to be
like the SUV back of the seat things. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm almost. I'm not. I'm sure. Like, they just have to exist. So I'm sure that possibility exists for kids these days. And yeah, holy fuck! Thinking about sitting in the back seat playing your Tiger LCD handheld instead.
Right. Like wait, as the sun goes down.
Oh my god, kill me now! Yeah, right. Yeah, kill it. This is how's the shit. Even like the back seat light. In a car in 1987 is terrible. You can't even. Yeah, this is not even comparable life quality situation.
Yeah, but yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Sadly, I definitely got some things on the docket. But what about you, man? What have you been playing these days?
I wouldn't say like I have like a reduced amount of gaming, but I don't have a ton to talk about really. Maybe the most important thing is the Fallout shit behind me. I watched that over the past, since it came out. Was it Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it was? And, when I initially, like, literally, I mean, the first 20 minutes of it, I think I was, like, livid because there were all these, what I perceived as oversights or deviations from the lore, and that's obviously you're on pins and needles about that for any adaptation.
Like, lore and accuracy. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. How are you going to shit all over this really well crafted story world for your stupid ass TV show? So I was on pins and needles about that, and probably a little too testy. As ultimately all the concerns I had, which were like the tech stuff in particular, like the big thing, and because it's so early, I don't think it does it either way, actually. But one of the really interesting things about Fallout is on the technical side, like the whole basis for why everything, all the technology has kind of like that oversized, clunky, humoristic vibe to it is because they never invented the semiconductor. Like, everything is still on vacuum tubes and shit is the whole idea in Fallout. So that's why everything is like, the nuclear technology. That's why they stick with it in such a way, because there's like all these technical dependencies. And I'm probably fucking this up myself too, and I'll probably get roasted for this. But like, to some degree or another, that's the idea, is that there was this point in the development of technology where they went a different direction and weren't able to like make things as small as we've made them. Electrical circuits and such. So early on, they're in this, they're in the vault. They start in a vault, and there's like a room with like this screen that like can look like anything, and it looks like an outdoor. I'm like, you couldn't do that with like the screens are shitty because they're on LCD screens in all of Fallout. They never developed like fucking LCD technology, for screens and shit. So like super, like I was irate immediately. I'm like, well, this is totally bullshit then. If they're not going to adhere to that, this is going to be a dog shit show, because that's like that's the crux of so much of the lore, I think, and like, I guess they don't really technically answer that specifically, but generally speaking, that and some of the other things that I took issue with early on were relatively satisfied in the long term. So that, my initial aversions we got past that, and then beyond that, it's just a great show. Walter Goggins, dude. I mean, that fucking dude. I think he is on my list now of like Woody Harrelson, Sam Rockwell type actors that like, if they're in it, you don't have to ask any questions. It's like the odds of it being bad are just microscopic. Like, that dude does nothing but great work and only aligns himself with good projects, with good people helming them and in them, and that is, there's not a lot of things. in the entertainment space, especially like the studio level, that I like. If I just see it, I'm like, oh, I don't have any, but no questions. Like I'll watch that, And it's nice to have another one of those, I think, because there's not a lot of them,
Wow.
So he's fucking great. He plays like this ghoul character, and he is just fucking great, dude. He's like just so funny and entertaining. Every second he's on screen, he's just like always interesting, in some way, shape, or form. And that is obviously what being a movie star is supposed to be.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Man, I'm like,
so, yeah, he's.
I cannot wait to watch the rest of it this week, or not the rest of it. Just
how far in are you?
I haven't watched any of it. Like I'm ready because we just got back,
yeah.
The other day from being out of town. So we had my mother-in-law over, and she was saying how she watched the whole thing already. I was like,
oh,
whoa.
really?
And she has no familiarity.
Wild,
yeah, she has no familiarity with the game at all. So
it's cool, dude. It's an amazing.
So she said at first she was like,
story.
I had no idea what was even happening. So I was kind of like, what's going on? But then after she got into it, then she was like, oh, this is great. So I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So if you have no familiarity at all and you were still hooked, I'm excited because obviously those games, are so good. So yeah.
Yeah, the story world is just great, man. And this one they did, and I don't think this is a spoiler either. You'll quickly learn it. But it's set in Los Angeles. So one, I live here, so that's interesting. And just, whenever you see that like apocalypse-sized version of places you're familiar with, it's interesting, of course, So that's cool. But more importantly, it allows them some creative freedom that they wouldn't have had if they would have set it somewhere where one of the games has already been, you know what I mean? DC or Vegas or whatever. So
yeah, that
was cool that they were able to, avoid probably other things like my dumb ass had in those first 20 minutes, yeah. By doing that and building their own lore. But still they did a fantastic job of still tying it in, and like, yeah, I mean, there's other stuff that I would love to talk about, but it's kind of spoilery. And yeah, I mean, I guess I would just say if you like Fallout, fuck yes, Jesus Christ, watch it. But yeah, I think, case in point, your fucking mother-in-law. Like, how old is she? Like fucking like,
yeah,
yeah, like fucking 60 something, and she fucking enjoyed it.
She's like, I have no idea what's happening. Yeah, I have no idea what's happening at first, but then after that, it was like, oh, okay, but this is good.
Well, that's why it's such a cool story world, is because it has that like 50s thing going on, that I think anyone can relate to, and maybe more importantly, feel comfortable to spend the time to get invested in the stuff happening in that world, And obviously, again, post-apocalyptic is kind of easy. I mean, I think the human brain has a fascination with that inherently, I think. So that is also an easy aspect of it. But yeah, it's great. I mean, we watched the last 4 episodes last night right in a row, and like 2. The only reason I stopped the first 2 nights is because Amy fell asleep, and last night I was like, fuck it, I don't care. Like, watch it on your own.
That is quite the recommendation. If you can just move on without your wife, then that's quite the show. That's quite it cause sure. Quite the stir in our house.
I mean, yeah, that's not an uncommon thing. It does not factor into the quality of the content that was falling asleep during. And, if I waited, if I turned off everything the second she fell asleep, my backlog would be endless.
Fair point.
Beyond watching that, still sipping a little bit. Amy and I doing a little bit of that here and there. We still gotta finish that game we started. But we're almost there on that, so I guess time will tell if we start another one or if that was just a one-off thing. And then I'm still doing my puzzling places shit, pressing onward in my ancient Egypt puzzle pack. I finished the pyramids, and I have moved on to the Sphinx, which is even harder. And I've never, that's one of the places I want to go. I've never been there. And the cool thing about this, maybe too, is that it is these perfect 3D models of real things. So it's more than just looking at a picture, or even if they were just hands you a 3D model of the area, because you are searching for fucking pieces and trying to put it together, you like hyper focus in on every little aspect of it. And like the Sphinx, for example, is like, it's not just the statue, it is the grounds surrounding it. So there's like this thing in front of it that it kind of looks like some sort of burial site or something, would be my guess. I don't know. I guess I probably will end up Googling exactly what it is. It's got to be, there's headstone. It's got to be some sort of burial thing. But I never knew that was there. And I've been fascinated with ancient Egypt my whole life. It's certainly on, if I were to say I had a bucket list, it would be there. And because I'm putting this puzzle together, I know more about it than I would have ever probably known. You would never think to Google, like, what's in front of the Sphinx? So that's really cool. And same thing with the pyramids too. It was like the two big ones, and there's like another little one, a little bit up over here. And then like the grounds around it, there's all these, like, there's other shit that's not just fucking pyramids in the middle of nowhere. There's like other shit around it, these little buildings and like remnants of things and like ruins of all kinds and shit. So it's really cool, and I think an interesting teaching tool for something like that, just to make you more aware of places you haven't been that you maybe would like to. So yeah, it's again, such a cool app. And I'm still plugging away in Asgard's Wrath 2, chipping away at those 100% completion objectives before I get into what has been clearly communicated to me as the final battle against Set. So I'm there. I just have to go talk to this woman, and she's going to take me to the battle. So like I can do that whenever I want. But Bung, my buddy Bungard, told me that when you beat the game, you can't go back. Do the shit. So yeah. I'm not, I'm gonna 100% everything, or at least the best of my ability. There's a couple like dumbass, fucking like, there was one, like, what is there? There's 6, I think. The 2 deserts, Papyrus Swamp, the fucking fire area, and then so there's 5 like areas, and I got the first 2 to 100%. Because like there's like, so you have like 4 numbers under each whatever, like map info area, and you have the total completion percentage. You have, I think there's monster dens, which are just like caves you find. You got to kill everything in and get the loot out of. There's fishing spots, and then there's one other thing. What the fuck is it?
Oh my gosh, fishing spots.
One of the and the fishing is that, yeah. I mean, I don't. It's there's so many different fish, and there's different. They implement the uses for them in different ways. So I'm not going to say it's a total waste of whatever, but like, it doesn't have any skill. It's not. It's like it doesn't have. You just have to like. I mean, there is like, you can't just at the first bite pull it in. There's like a harder bite, but it's so easily discernible once you know it, and like. Maybe the first couple of times you go fishing, there's a little bit of like, am I not going to get the fish kind of thing? But beyond that, it's cake. So yeah, the fishing stuff, fucking not a good thing. But there's a ton of spots for sure. And so yeah, those 3 things, and then the total completion percentage, and like, those first 2 levels, like I got them to 100% across the board, and I mean, I've discovered a few extra little side quest kind of thingies as I've fulfilled these requests that you got to do that open up new requests, So maybe that's it. But there's a couple, like I think the second stage, where like now it's like all 3 of the sub things are 100%, fishing spots, monster dens, and whatever the other one is. And the total completion thing has went down to 99%. And it's like, secret chest. That's the other one. Secret chest, monster dens, and fishing spots. And it's like, I sure there's other things. There's like these Hootafolk, like little riddles you got to solve and give an item to these little elf dudes. So there are other things that can be in a stage, but like to have no clue what it would be on this map I've totally explored, and like, it's just like, it's so frustrating because like there's just not enough. There's no FAQs or guides out there I'm gonna have to just find it if I really want to 100%. And there's also a chance, like there's one monster den, and I have found confirmation of this on the web. There's one monster den in the 4th area that's like broke. Like you can't finish it. So like I'm never going to, until they patch it, I guess. which it's been I've known this for months, so they clearly aren't prioritizing patching it. So I may never be able to do it 100%, even if I spend all the time, which just is so frustrating for my inner retentive ass. But I want to, and there's still a few things like I'll at least like with the first one, I might remember there was like the keys thing where I was like there was I couldn't quite 100% it because I needed these keys, and once I started going back and figuring out how stupid it was to try to find them, I was able to let go and just not do that part and not quite 100% the game. So hopefully I can come to the same emotional place with this one, but I'm going to do my best to come as close as possible. So,
oh my gosh.
But yeah, those two things are pretty much it. Puzzling Places and that as far as the VR stuff. And then I've gotten quite a bit done in the side questing on Phantasy Star as well, but that story is for another time.